What's going on, Trailblazers? Sam here, back at it again for another video. And in today's video, I'm giving my thoughts on Jing Yuan's banner and whether or not I think it's worth your precious jade. So let's get into it. Now, if you didn't know, Jing Yuan's banner is coming in about 2 days, and the 4 stars are Su Shan, March 7th, and Ting Yun. The TLDR version, this is a really good banner. These 4 stars have pretty insane value across the board. We have Su Shan, who's an amazing 4-star physical DPS. We have March 7th, who's a fantastic shielder. She also has a debuff baked into her kit, which can be very helpful for Kafka and other endgame content. And then we have Ting Yun, arguably one of the best buffers in the game. So the TLDR version, this is an insane banner. I think for the 4 stars, it's well worth it. Even if maybe you're not completely sold on Jing Yuan, you won't get hurt if you summon on this banner. Now, if we want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on these characters, specifically, how they function and their eidolons, let's get into it. So let's start with Su Shan. As I mentioned, she is a 4-star hunt physical DPS character, and she's awesome. I used her in the 3rd floor of the simulated universe against Japard. She carried me. She also carried me for the fight against Kafka in World 5. She is a great character. She hits like a truck. And basically, if you don't have her, if you haven't used her, the preface of her kit is what we call sword stance. So sword stance, basically when you hit, there is a certain percentage, 33% to be exact, to proc sword stance, which just does additional physical damage based on her attack. But if you break an enemy's shield, this procs all the time. And if actually you have her first eidolon, you get a skill point from doing this. So let's say you break an enemy's shield and you use her elemental skill. Basically, you're using that skill for free. And this sword stance damage is it hits pretty hard. So it scales pretty drastically with her attack, obviously. And then also her burst summons this huge chicken, which is kind of funny and cool. I think it's called Phoenix. And then also after you use her burst, it bumps her up significantly in the turn order because it boosts her speed. So a little bit of Sealy in her. I really enjoy this character. The only issue I have with her is if you do have Clara, it's kind of redundant. Clara is pretty much better in all situations. But if you don't have Clara, you get this character, or you get a lot of copies of her on Jing Yuan's banner, I would definitely build her. What's nice about her is you actually get her best in slot artifacts or relic set for free from the shop in Jerillo 6. So really easy to build. You get her best artifacts pretty early on, and she can carry you. And her eidolons, like I said, are pretty good. I think her E1's pretty good. Her E2 isn't bad. Her E4 is pretty solid. And then her E6 gives an extra stack of her speed boost. So all in all, I think she's a really good character. I think if you get a lot of copies of her, you will be pleasantly surprised. Now, moving over to March 7th. Now, March 7th, surprisingly, is kind of divisive. I know some people say she's dog water. I see a lot of people say she's really solid. I am of the camp that she's really solid. She's a phenomenal shielder. If you have Clara, you put March 7th shield on Clara, you basically win the game because it's just going to keep Clara alive. It's going to put all the aggro on Clara, and Clara's just going to do a bunch of retribution attacks. So March 7th and Clara, Pog. You can also put her with the Fire MC, also works really well. But one thing I really like about March is she actually has a debuff built into her kit. And to my knowledge, only her and Natasha have this debuff. So this is really good for the Kafka fight in the simulated universe. Just all in all, it's going to be really good in harder content down the road as well. So I really think March is really solid. Obviously, she can freeze enemies too with her ultimate, which is pretty pog, and she's really easy to build. All you want to do is stack a bunch of defense on her, and then maybe on your substats you focus on effect hit rate, so you're trying to guarantee that freeze a little bit more. But all in all, I think March is a really good character. I think if you get her eidolon, she becomes exponentially better. I think E2 is really good. I think E4 is pretty good, and I think E6 is really good. So all in all, I think March is a really good character. She ramps up pretty quick. She's free. We all get her from the rip. I think there's a lot of enemies in the game that do have ice weaknesses. So if you don't have Pella, if you don't have Yang Qing, I think March 7th should be your kind of go-to ice character. And then moving on to Ting Yun, I think we all know how good this character is. She's arguably, one of the best buffers in the game, especially if you don't have Bronya. Her skill gives benediction to her character for 3 turns, which just improves their attack. And then also her ultimate basically gives a character about more than a quarter of their elemental burst. So let's say you have like Sela. Sela's at like 50% energy. You use Sela's skill. She probably gets to like 80%. Then you pop Ting Yun's ultimate, and then you already have Sela's burst. So you can kind of go on repeat and repeat and repeat. And honestly, this is really helpful in a pinch too. Let's say you just took a big AoE attack from a boss, and maybe your healer like Natasha or Bailu doesn't quite have their burst. You can use Ting Yun's burst and give one of your healers a burst to save your butt. So I think Ting Yun is a fantastic character. She's super versatile. You can pretty much use her in every single team, and it's going to significantly improve that team. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I say these 4 stars are pretty insane. Honestly, I'm pretty pleased that only the second banner in, and we have pretty good 4-star value right out the jump. But I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give my thoughts on this banner. I say all in all, it's a very good banner, specifically for the 4 stars. Now, Jing Yuan is a very interesting character. I'm not going to talk about him too much, but essentially he's a 5-star Erudition Lightning character. And what's interesting about him is that he summons his Lightning Lord, which basically functions as another character. It's going to actually have its own turn order, and it's going to have its own unique skill. Speed, and then also it has its own attack. And it procs turns based on how you use Jing Yuan's skill and burst. So the more, like, let's say you use his skill and then you use his burst, it's going to give the Lightning Lord multiple more attacks. So really interesting. I'm going to test them out. I don't know if I want them myself, mostly because Kafka is also a lightning character and she has AoE baked into her kit. I know she focuses more on DOT, but nonetheless, they're both 5-star lightning characters. And I don't really want 2 of them this early on in the game. But that being said, if you want him, you should get him. There's a lot of enemies that have lightning weaknesses, specifically all robots. And there are a lot of robots in all the end game content. But that's pretty much it. I think I covered all the characters as best I could. And I hope this helped. So comment down below. I'm genuinely curious. Are you going for Jing Yuan? Are you saving? What do you think of the 4 stars? Are you hyped for his banner? But as always, I appreciate you all so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.